All right, we're ready to get started, finally. And it is my pleasure to welcome the Attorney General Jason Miyares and your 74th Governor of the Commonwealth of Virginia, Glenn Youngkin. All right, good afternoon, everyone. It's great to see so many people from the automotive community here today. My name is Dave Perno, and I am the president of Loyalty Automotive, who, along with my wife, Kathy, and our sons, and our partners, proudly operate the Loyalty dealerships right here in the Tri-Cities area in Williamsburg, Virginia. We're a small business honored to serve the community, not just through the great vehicles that we sell and service, but also through the 350 jobs for local Virginians and through the economic impact on the Virginia economy that the loyalty companies provide. What's more, we're part of a strong new and used car franchise dealer network that works for the consumers across the state. Today, I have the great honor to introduce the Honorable Glenn Youngkin, the 74th Governor of the Commonwealth of Virginia. A businessman himself, Governor Youngkin has been a steadfast supporter of small business, just like the automobile dealers here, yours and mine. He also stands up for consumers to ensure that they have adequate protections and affordable competitive choice. He recognizes that supporting small businesses and consumers is not a partisan issue, but a community and economic imperative. Governor Youngkin understands that when companies and consumers thrive, Virginia wins. So he stood up for small business owners and worked tirelessly for the citizens of the Commonwealth to ensure that our state remains a thriving environment for entrepreneurs and established enterprises alike. We thank him for joining us here today. Please join me in welcoming again Governor Glenn Youngkin.
Thank you. Thank you all very much. And if you want to do some business afterwards, I know that there's a showroom and cars to be bought here. So Dave would really appreciate that. So I appreciate everybody coming out. And, most importantly, I appreciate this opportunity for us to re-emphasize the importance of individuals being allowed to make decisions that are important to them. And that's what today is all about. It's about celebrating freedom. It's about celebrating the Virginia promise that you get to come to the Commonwealth of Virginia, have an extraordinary life, and make decisions over your life. But more importantly, this is about choosing what car you drive. And I can't tell you how important that decision was when I bought my first car. I remember it like it was yesterday. It was $500. With the paint job, it was $575. And that was a heck of a paint job. But if somebody had told me that the Dodge Coronet station wagon that was gray when we bought it, known as the Gray Ghost, and was blue after we painted it and became the Blue Bomb, I would have had to pay $10,000 more to buy, I would have been walking. And that is the reality. I got to decide what kind of car I wanted to drive. And that has been at the heart of our efforts. You see, Virginia is the best place to live and work and raise a family. No doubt about it. We're seeing it in every metric. People are loving, working, raising their families, and living here. And what we need to do in order to continue to deliver what Virginians need is accelerate. And today we are accelerating. I have the privilege of announcing that we are ending once and for all the California electric vehicle mandate in Virginia. Thank you. Listen, the idea that government should be telling Virginians what kind of car they must drive is just simply wrong. It's wrong. The idea that unelected bureaucrats in California should be deciding for Virginians what car they drive is wrong. And finally, unleashing the power of the consumer to in fact drive what inventory is carried here and how they're serviced is what free enterprise is all about. And that's what today represents. There are a ton of people who have been at work at this for a long time, and you're going to hear from them in a minute, but I have to say my partner, our Attorney General Jason Miyares, and his entire office have done the most amazing work to make it very clear, the law is not confusing. We're going to end the California mandate. And Jason, thank you. Thank you, thank you. I also want to thank Leader McDougal, who was conflicted out this afternoon and couldn't be here. He's covered another important thing, but his leadership in the Senate has been amazing. I also want to thank Todd Gilbert, whose leadership in the House has been amazing. And then I want to stop for a minute because today doesn't reflect work that was done yesterday. It has been a consistent effort to liberate Virginians from these mandates, and there have been a lot of people involved. And so I first want to thank our CARB repeal patrons, the bills that in fact have brought together people expressing issues here. Senator Richard Stewart, Delegate Tony Wilt, Delegate Buddy Fowler, Delegate Lee Ware, Senator John McGuire. And then, of course, we had so many folks who piled in and said, no, we want a co-patron, we want to be involved, and that's Delegate Mark Earley, that's Delegate David Owen, that's Delegate Scott Wyatt, that's Delegate Mike Cherry. My gosh, I have to say that at the end of the day, you guys just could, everybody just stand up. You guys all stand up. Here we go. Delegate Mark, here we go. Thank you. And I want to thank Secretary Travis Voiles, who has been such a consistent advocate to allow Virginians to decide for themselves. And this is what today is all about, the clear announcement that Virginians get to decide for themselves. See, I don't think it's that crazy of an idea that first and foremost that the rules and laws that Virginians lived by should in fact be enacted by Virginians. How about that for a first start? And abdicating them to California was a really bad idea to start with. Second of all, we understand that what has happened in the California regulations, which is the old regs, which are going to retire at December 31st this year, would have mandated that 22% of every car sold in the Commonwealth of Virginia would be an electric vehicle, and the following year in 2026, it would have been 35% of every car sold in the Commonwealth of Virginia would have to be an electric vehicle. Now, listen, let me just be clear. I don't have anything against electric vehicles. If you want to buy an electric vehicle, buy one. If you want to buy a hybrid, buy one. If you want to buy a gas-powered engine and an internal combustion engine, buy one. That's your choice. But when today 9% of automobiles in Virginia that are purchased are electric vehicles, to turn around and mandate that 35% of them have to be electric vehicles imposes an extraordinary economic burden on our dealers and on Virginians. And let me just be clear, the new regs that are going in place in California would penalize the system. Dealers, and we know where that's going to have to go to consumers, $20,000 for every single car that was below the threshold. Folks, 30,000 electric vehicles were sold last year. That would require 120,000 electric vehicles to be sold. That's 90,000 more electric vehicles that would otherwise have to be sold. And if they weren't, that's $1.8 billion of fines and penalties in a year that would be imposed on the system. That doesn't make any sense whatsoever. And that's why today is not only a moment to celebrate the freedom for Virginians to decide, but it also is a moment for us to celebrate the economic opportunity for Virginians to express with their hard-earned money the car that they want to buy. Now, I think finally, we need to recognize that on top of freedom to choose, on top of saving Virginians from the economic penalty, there is a real national security moment in supply chains for electric vehicles. And the reality is that the supply chain for electric vehicles is dominated by Chinese companies, many of which are controlled by the Chinese Communist Party. Folks, we just have to recognize that when the government mandates that you must buy 35% EV population into the automotive supply chain, it only pushes us further into this national security vice. And therefore, today we are celebrating independence. Yes, it's not July 4th, but it is independence from the California electric vehicle mandates. Finally, I just want to emphasize that there is not an or moment here. You see, oftentimes, what comes with mandates is an or. You must do this or you'll be penalized. This is an and moment, again, in Virginia. And when we have and moments, we thrive. And we've had so many of them because Virginia is thriving. We had an and moment that said that we could reduce the tax burdens on Virginia and deliver $5 billion of tax relief and have record investments in education, in public safety, and in behavioral health. We had an and moment that said that you can, in fact, choose whichever direction you want to go in your education. You can go to higher ed, you can get a credential, you can go to trade school, and you can get a great job, many of which are right out here working for Dave Perno. We can have and moments. And today is another and moment. You choose what car you want to drive. And that is why and moments have such an economic catalyst to them. The combination of those moments in the last 2.5 years of the Commonwealth of Virginia has translated into a Virginia that is thriving. More people working today than ever in the history of the Commonwealth of Virginia. Labor participation at a 12-year high. Low unemployment. Gosh, we are at 2.8% low unemployment. We, in fact, have broken job creation records over a 2-year period that people thought never would be broken. It works. Common sense works. So this is, more than anything else, yet another chapter in celebrating common sense. And so with that, we today are going to celebrate decision freedom. Today we're going to celebrate economic freedom. Today we're going to celebrate being free from California electric vehicle mandates. And today, very simply, we are going to make sure that all Virginians know you get to decide what car you want to drive. And so with that, I would like to hand over this moment to our Attorney General, Jason Miyares, whose team did extraordinary work to make it very clear that this is the law. Jason, over to you. Thank you.
Everyone's excited to see the lawyer in the room, right? It is great to be here, but as you could, just from Governor Youngkin's remarks, Americans have always had a love affair with cars. He noted his first car. Mine was a 1973 Pontiac Le Mans, same car that brought me home from the hospital. But everyone remembers that amazing moment when they got in their first car, and it goes back to the idea that Virginians and Americans should control that destiny and their own freedom. And so to take you a little bit back on the Wayback Machine of how we got here, how Virginia got to the point where we were relying on California to make these decisions for consumers, and now where the law is as we stand right now. So in 2012, California, which is the only state in the union under Section 209 of the Clean Air Act, is able to set their own standards. Other states can follow California. They can't set their own. The choice is either California's or federal air emission standards. And in 2012, they formulated something called the Advanced Clean Car Program, ACC1 is the acronym often that you see. And it regulated low emission car standards between 2015 and 2025 on a graduated scale. And then in 2021, under a previous administration and previous control of the General Assembly, they passed a law tying us to ACC1, referencing several times to sections of the California Code that reference ACC1. And something happened in 2022. California then passed what's called ACC2, the Advanced Clean Cars Program 2, which had an explicit sunset of ACC1. And the ACC2 standards would go into effect on January 1, 2025. Virginia's Air Pollution Control Board has never approved, has never adopted these ACC2 regulations. And because there was an explicit sunset provision placed on ACC1, it expires on December 31st of this year. So this opinion simply points out what the law is, and also points out that when the General Assembly passed this bill, they used languages like may. And any lawyer in the room will tell you there is a huge difference when you use what has been construed by the Supreme Court of Virginia time and time again, that may is permissive versus language that commands. The General Assembly could have put in that language. They failed to do so. And it actually references, the board, the previous rulings from the board references a section of the code, ACC1, that is no longer operative at the end of the year. And therefore, I can reach no other conclusion as the Attorney General of Virginia that the provisions tying us to California Air ACC2 are no longer operable. And yes, Virginians, yet again, have consumer freedom in the Commonwealth. Thank you, Governor, for requesting this analysis. And as the governor noted, with electric vehicles, it comes down to consumer choice. I have friends that love their EVs. But you see a lot of consumers that have both price anxiety and range anxiety. The average EV runs anywhere between $10,000 to $70,000 more expensive than a non-electric vehicle. And many people say this is actually a tax on working class Virginians. You know, the governor and I have been down to Newport News shipbuilding a lot. You don't see a lot of EVs in that parking lot, those folks that build Freedom's Navy. And so right now what we've seen is we want Virginians to have that freedom. And it comes back to the idea that you, Virginians, can decide whether you want an electric vehicle, but it's not our place, the Commonwealth, to take that choice away from you. And then range anxiety. I would note that the Biden administration passed in the Inflation Reduction Act, ironically named, $1.7 billion to build 500,000 electric charging stations around the country. That was passed in 2021. In January of this year, they had built a grand total of one, allocated by the $1.7 billion. And that's not the first time they've allocated money for this. And so you saying that consumers want that choice, maybe we'll be there with EVs, but let the consumers drive that, not the dictates of an unelected board in California. The General Assembly members are free to introduce a new bill that tries to take this from being permissive to being mandatory. They're welcome to have that debate. That is democracy. We welcome that debate. I have a sneaky suspicion that any bill that comes out of the General Assembly that makes this a mandate is going to be vetoed by this governor. But it's been an honor to be the Attorney General. It's an honor to both issue this opinion and make sure that Virginians always have a choice. Now I get to introduce somebody who can provide perspective from the dealer's perspective, somebody who is the chairman of the Virginia Automobile Dealers Association, who runs one of the most successful dealerships in the DC metro area. I can give a perspective that he has in this endeavor of what this looks like, what he has seen firsthand dealing with this mandate, but also the impact this is going to have on consumer choice. So without further ado, please welcome Tim Bankin. Thank you. Yeah.
Since we're talking about first cars and bad paint jobs, I remember my dad telling me I could have any car on the lot I wanted as long as it was the one he already picked out. And it was a very bad paint job, 1983 Cutlass Supreme. So I can remember that. My name is Tim Pohanka, and I'm here today to support an issue that's as critical as it is complex. I'm a new car dealer who is fully invested in electric vehicles. Our stores have committed millions in EV infrastructure. I'm also the legislative chair for VADA, with whom I'm speaking for. And yes, my everyday vehicle is an electric one. Virginia dealers stand with the governor and the Attorney General in removing Virginia from the California Air Resources Board mandates. Electric vehicles are part of the future. There's no denying that. But the path to that future is full of challenges and opportunities. The California Air Resources Board mandates, however well-intentioned, are ill-advised, applying a California solution to Virginia and other states. One major hurdle we all face is the lack of consumer demand. While the interest for electric vehicles is rising, it's not yet to the level where these unreasonable California mandates expect them to be. Forcing EV demand before the market is ready will have detrimental effects for both consumers and dealers. Our current infrastructure, EV infrastructure, is not equipped to handle the significant increase in electric vehicles. We need a more comprehensive and accessible network of EV charging stations across the state before we can expect consumers to readily be able to adopt EVs. Without the necessary infrastructure, owners will find it inconvenient and challenging to keep their vehicles charged, just as Californians already have experienced. Moreover, there is a lack of EV affordable options to meet the needs of all consumers. Many electric vehicles on the market today still come at a premium compared to traditional gasoline or hybrid vehicles. Forcing an aggressive transition without affordable choices will alienate a large segment of our population, especially those in rural or low-income areas who rely on affordable transportation. The California Air Resources Board sets unreachable goals. Environmental prosperity should not be a partisan issue. It requires collaboration from all Virginians, not a California mandate. Returning to the federal standards gives us the flexibility for choice and for innovation. It's not a step back, it's a step towards diversity, a dynamic approach to achieving our environmental goals. Electric hybrids, hybrid vehicles, plug-in hybrids, and fuel cells, and all other emerging technologies will have a role to play in this grand transition. But by strictly adhering to the California Air Resources Board's mandates, we stifle innovation and narrow the pathway to a cleaner air and a healthier planet. I want to be clear, today this action is about leadership. With insight and prudence, we applaud the governor and the Attorney General. They recognize the urgency of the climate crisis, but also understand the unique tapestry that is Virginia. Virginia dealers know we play a part. Across the Commonwealth, dealers are involved in many environmental initiatives. Alone at Pohanka with our partners, we will plant close to 50,000 trees in 2 years. We believe in a cleaner future. Together, we can create a demand for cleaner technologies through education and incentives that make sense for our citizens. As Virginians, we can build the charging infrastructure that not only gives us the confidence, but the convenience to go from the Blue Ridge Mountains to the Chesapeake Bay. By taking this step, this administration will ensure that no Virginians are left behind in the transition to a cleaner future. This isn't about meeting mandates, it's about setting standards. It's about a standard of thoughtful leadership, innovative progress, and above all, a commitment to a better future. I thank you all, and I thank this administration. Great. Governor?
Thank you. Thank you. So to close, thank you all for coming. And once again, today is a day to reflect on Virginians making decisions for Virginians, consumers deciding what car they want to drive, and yet a further recognition that respecting Virginians' hard work and therefore the money they earn and allowing them to decide how they want to spend it is most important. So finally, we are going to remain committed to delivering on all of the above for Virginians, to make sure that you get to decide how you want to spend your money. You get to decide what kind of car you want to drive. And most importantly, you get to decide where you want to live and work and raise your family. And let me tell you, If you decide it's not in Virginia, you've made the wrong decision. Thank you all very, very much.